According to the National Health Service, antenatal classes can help you prepare for your baby's birth, build your confidence, and give you vital information about that puke-stained road into early parenthood. Yet a significant number of first-time parents choose not to take them. But why? Some perceptions exist that the way classes are delivered is outdated, full of 1970s videos of women screaming in labour, that they gobble up your precious free time and that they cost a small fortune to attend. But is there any truth in that? In this video, I'll delve into that in a bit more detail. I'll share my honest experiences with you and give you a summary at the end as to whether antenatal classes are actually worth it. First, what are antenatal classes? Antenatal classes are designed to help parents to get ready both practically and emotionally. Antenatal classes usually begin in mum's third trimester, usually at around 30 to 32 weeks, although this can vary. Now, I'd always known this sort of thing existed for new parents, but before I'd actually looked into this in any sort of detail, I always thought they were called NCT classes. Well, actually, not totally. I thought antenatal classes and NCT classes were interchangeable terms. And that's not actually accurate, but there is a good reason why I thought that way. The NCT, or National Childbirth Trust, have been in existence since 1956. They're the UK's largest charity providing information and support about pregnancy, and they also happen to be the largest provider of paid-for antenatal classes in the country. But the important thing to note is they are not the only organisation that provides antenatal classes. The NHS deliver their own courses, but there are also loads of independent providers of antenatal classes at various locations across the country. After discussing with our midwife what options were available in our area, we did our own research before deciding on a local provider for classes called Mama's Village. So what do classes cover? The core offer is likely to be similar across all providers, giving you information about how to deal with labour, pain relief, making a birth plan, even though nobody ever sticks to it, considering different arrangements for birth and what happens after the baby arrives. From there though, the offer starts to diversify depending on your provider and how long your course is. Obviously, the longer your course, the more time there is to give you information, but then that's also likely to be reflected in the cost. In our case, Lauren attended a Better Birth course, which ran alongside the main antenatal classes, and that covered things like pregnancy Pilates, practicing her breathing, and hypnobirthing.
Let that feeling turn to relaxation.
But it's worth bearing in mind that these additional courses usually come with an extra charge. So why wouldn't people take them? If there's all this good stuff available, why wouldn't people take advantage of it? Well, there's a few reasons. First, time. People live busy lives and have a string of various other commitments. So the idea of being tied down to weekly sessions at potentially inconvenient times might not be attractive. Many of the courses in my area are between 12 and 15 hours long and are spread over a 5 to 7 week period, so I can kind of understand why that level of commitment might put people off. However, what I would say is that the courses delivered by the NHS can be as short as a few hours. And as for the NCT and the private providers, well, they tend to host their sessions on different nights of the week. Some include weekends, some don't, so in most parts of the country you should be able to find something that can fit around your needs. Secondly, money. All the gear you need to get ready for a baby is not cheap, so the idea of having to fork over hundreds of pounds for a course that is ultimately a nice to have can be understandably unattractive. The good news is NHS antenatal classes are free if you can get on them. They get booked up in good time for that exact reason. If your NHS course takes place in a hospital, you might even get a tour of the labour ward, which is a nice touch as it might just help you feel that little bit more comfortable. You can talk to your midwife or GP at an antenatal appointment to find out what's available in your area. In terms of private antenatal classes, according to UK watchdog Which, you can expect to pay an average of £175 for your classes. However, we live in the southeast and it was definitely more expensive round our way. Shocker. NCT classes were more in the region of £299 to £369, and we actually ended up paying more like £230 for our 12-hour course with Mama's Village. You might be wondering, is going private worth it? Which also undertook a study with parents-to-be which suggests the answer may be yes. Of the parents they interviewed in February 2022 who had paid for their antenatal classes, 91% of them reported that they found the sessions useful, with only 8% saying that they didn't. I guess the other 1% didn't understand the question.
I don't understand.
Thirdly, people. Classes also might not be for you if you're the kind of person that doesn't enjoy being in a group setting with other people. Although this didn't apply to us, I can kind of understand that thinking, because normally when you're in a group setting like that, there's always that one knobber who dominates the conversation, who wants to ask all the questions and basically just never shuts up. We were really lucky though that we didn't have anyone like that. Wait, unless? Fourth, if it's not your first. It kind of goes without saying that if it's not your first, you probably feel like you don't really need the advice. Although there are refresher courses available if it's been a while or if you didn't ride the antenatal rodeo the first time round. Expectations versus reality. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, some people hold negative perceptions about what these classes are going to entail. And I have to be honest and say that although I didn't really know what to expect, I did come in with the vision of having to sit behind Lauren on a sticky mat, practicing breathing exercises and watching some pretty grim videos of birth. I personally blame that episode of Friends where Ross goes to that class with Carol and her lesbian life partner Susan, because that is literally my only reference point. But the reality is that was not our experience at all. We were on a course with 6 other couples and our course leader made us feel super relaxed. There were usually a couple of activities each week, which might include sticking posters up on the walls or activities you could do down by your chairs. Sometimes we would do group tasks with other couples, and this was always with a chance for a cup of tea and a bit of socialising in the middle. The environment made it really easy and comfortable to talk to the other couples, which was amazing. I tended to take notes each week because I'm a nerd.
Nerd?
But our course leader sent us a load of really helpful resources after each session that we could then look back on and refer to. The only time we really needed to get hands-on was during the last week where we tried putting baby clothes on dolls and practiced putting nappies on them. Everyone else in the class managed to do this successfully except for Moi, who managed to put the nappy on backwards. Seriously, our kid is screwed. We thought the classes would be all about the baby, but actually there was quite a lot to do with the parents and our mental well-being. We also really valued having FaceTime with a medical professional that we could speak to either during or after the classes, because sometimes our midwife appointments can feel quite rushed. Oh, and we also got to play with a knitted boob. So if you do go ahead, what should you be looking out for when you're choosing a class? My number one piece of advice would be to check the background of whoever would be leading your classes. In our case with Mama's Village, our course was led by a trained midwife who worked part-time at the hospital where we're having the baby. So having that inside knowledge on how things work was really important to us and formed a big part of our decision making. Having the right trainer will make the world of difference to how much you actually get out of the classes, so don't be afraid to send an email with a few questions before you book. Class sizes. The bigger the class, the more diluted the course leader's attention is going to be, but on the flip side, the more couples there are to make friends with. Location and timing, pretty obvious, but ideally you want to stay as close to home as you can, not only to make classes easy to get to, but so that hopefully the other couples on your course are from the same area. This will make it easier for the mums to meet on maternity leave and easier for the dads to meet for a curry when the mums have had enough of them. In person or remote? Well, since the pandemic, far more online options have become available. If you're from outside the UK or you live in a really remote location, then this could be a lifesaver, but otherwise I would definitely recommend doing this in person, because otherwise you're going to miss out on that social element, which is so important. Regardless of whether you're going down the NHS or the private route, just make sure you get on it early so that you get the course you want. So, all things considered, are they worth it? Ultimately, whether antenatal classes are worth it for you will boil down to what you want to get out of those sessions. If you're expecting to sign up and come out at the other end as Parent of the Year, I think you're going to be disappointed, because antenatal classes really only scratch the surface. But what they will do is make you feel more involved, aware, and more prepared for labour and the immediate aftermath. The cost barrier is a legitimate argument. £200 to £300 is not an insignificant amount of money, and the NHS courses can be really hard to get onto. And if you don't want to go to an antenatal class, there are lots of other opportunities to get the information and support you need, and there are obviously an untold number of parents who have managed absolutely fine without going to them. But the bit that might not be immediately obvious when you're looking to sign up for classes is how valuable that support system is going to be. It's hard to put a value on being able to bond with people who are going through such a similar experience at exactly the same time. Off the back of our course, the mums-to-be now have a WhatsApp group, and so do the dads-to-be, although I imagine the content is probably a little bit different. And although the course is now over, we now feel like we've got a group of people that we can rely on for moral support. We can message in the middle of the night and know they'll probably still be awake. That we can send pictures to asking if the green stuff in the baby's nappy is normal. And who can help prop us up in the midst of our inevitable nervous breakdown. My honest opinion is I really enjoyed our antenatal classes. I look forward to them each week and I honestly got a lot out of them. I would genuinely recommend them to anybody. Although we absolutely acknowledge that we were really lucky having 6 other great couples and a fantastic teacher. To try and get a more balanced view, I also spoke to some of my friends who'd booked with different providers and had different experiences, and they pretty much all universally told me that they didn't really know what to expect either, but that they got a lot out of it and they would recommend it to other people too. If I've sold it to you and you do want to book a class, the NHS have a really handy tool for finding antenatal classes in your area. I'll link that down in the description. Although it's worth noting that not every private provider is listed on there, so make sure you follow up with some of your own research too. I hope this video has been helpful. Our due date's now just a few weeks away. If you'd like to meet our little person, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Thanks ever so much for watching and I'll see you next time.